This is TWiT.
So, the day finally came. Android Q is now officially ready to be installed.
When was that day?
Of course, it was the day after, right? It was the day after the episode. I mean, everything happens on Wednesday, the day after we publish our episode. That's just the way the world works.
Everything. No, today we had something happen today that we're going to get to later. So
that's
that was
true.
Nice. Yeah,
exactly.
But we definitely did get Googled last week.
Yes, we totally got preempted by Google, the actual company that creates the things we talk about. So maybe that's impossible to get preempted by them. Anyways, if you have a Pixel device, you can install Android Q on it right now. Though, do you want to? That, I think, is a question that remains. Cameron, I know that you've installed this, but it's not on your primary phone, right?
No, it's definitely not on my. I don't think it's daily driver ready yet. But it's weird because it's when you first install it, it doesn't look a whole lot different than Pi.
No.
But it's Pi but buggy.
Yeah, I've got it running on my daily driver. This is not something you're supposed to do, but I did it anyways because why not? And it, you know, when you look at it, you're right. Like there's really no indication. If I pull down my notifications, then you see a little bit of an indication. I've got dark mode on apparently.
Ooh.
And I didn't switch this on, so I'm trying to think like did I make a switch that like translated over from Pi to Q or whatever? I'm not really quite sure.
Yeah, if you had it set to use the dark theme instead of the theme that matches your wallpaper, when you updated to Q, that now that basically that's stuck and there's no way to change it.
Oh.
Yeah, so not yet, not right now anyway. I'm sure that a switch is coming just like was in Pi, but yeah, that's why.
Well, that's okay because I like it anyways. Maybe that should be a bummer, but I think it's okay. I like the darkness. But there are ways, well, there are a number of features, obviously, in Android Q, and we don't have this really built out outside of the fact that, Cameron, you wrote a very lengthy Android Weekly post on howtogeek.com where you broke out just tons and tons of links, an Android Q feature roundup from all sorts of different publications linking to the many different things. So I thought, you know, that's a great foundation. And then I have a bunch of other links in here. I'm hoping everybody kind of had a chance to take a look a little bit. But were there any things that kind of jumped out at you? I mean, we could read through some of these and see what we're looking forward to. And I can let you know it's really hard to see. There's so much that you don't see when I just look at the phone that I've been using for a full day and night, like a full 24 hours on Android Q, and I would hardly know it at this point. It really just kind of seems like Pi.
Should we round robin it?
Sure. Why don't I'll just start. I have in the notes here. So apparently there are settings around something called feature flags, which is like this extra menu section. Let's see if I can get to it in settings. That adds, so I'm going to search for it. Feature.
By the way, I love this dark theme. Sorry, I just want to say I'm really happy for it coming.
Feature flags.
I gotta tell you, after using that Google News app so much with the reading the news while the babies are sleeping in the dark, I've become a real dark mode convert.
Yeah,
like, big time.
That's why. Yeah,
absolutely. The more you use it, the harder it is to go back. And thankfully, it seems like Android Q is really going to put more emphasis on that. But feature flags has all these different kind of sliders in here, and I'm not sure if this is, you know, obviously a very early version of Android Q beta, so maybe they're going to clean this up. Right now, this is found, I believe, in developer settings, but it allows you to do things like do screen recording. You can switch it on so that you can do video recording without the need of an app. If I hold down my power button, boom, I've got, I should have, well, I have a screenshot there, but I thought that there was a video screen record long press.
Oh, long press. Okay.
Well, I thought that it would.
What if you long press on screenshot?
Oh, that might be it. You're right.
Oh my gosh, it's so much easier than everything else that you need to do for a screen recording.
It's not beautiful, but there it is, and that's kind of the point at this point. It's functional. It's there. Keep in mind, this is not meant for like just everyone. This is really meant to kind of seed out to developers, give people an early indication. So some people would very quickly see the changes in Android Q and be like, I don't like how they did this. That's horrible, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe it is horrible. They might actually change that because they've got a bunch of revisions to do. But anyways, there's a bunch of different flags here that you can trigger. You can reorganize where the power button menu appears, reorganize network and internet settings in the settings pane, quick switch between audio devices. You can share your Wi-Fi password with a QR code. All that stuff is triggerable, or at least configurable in the feature flag setting. So that's kind of an interesting new section that seems to have a lot of customization in it.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Ron.
I love the Q logo.
Oh, I haven't even got to that yet.
It's such a good logo, like that little Q with the thing. I mean, at least looking at the blog post on it, and is there an Easter egg thing in the?
That's what I'm trying to figure out without showing literally everything about my life.
Well, as you look for that, aside from the Q logo, I love the fact that they called out in the blog post with the foldables and innovative new screens, which shows that Google is not ignoring the trend or the future of foldable phones, and if anything, gonna have Android be ready for it and gonna work with the manufacturers to support these innovative new screens, screen sizes we haven't even thought of yet, which I'm excited about. So yeah. I'm glad to see that. That was one thing I was worried it wouldn't be in this, and we'd have a year of stratification of like modified versions of Android to support these weird screens.
Yeah, right. Well, and you knew they were gonna continue working on this because, man, there are a lot of those right around the corner. Apparently, that's the future. That's what they want us to think.
Wow,
the future's foldable.
The future is foldable. The F in future stands for foldable. Flo, what do you think?
I don't know what to say next. There's all these little things.
I know. There's all little. It is a lot of little things.
Let's talk about. Okay, I'm gonna pull one out of a hat.
Sure.
What about desktop mode?
So yeah, that's interesting. Desktop mode, which
yes.
You're like, cool, it's a launch pad for something. Which seems early stages. Like at this point, it seems like XDA has realized, or they posted about it, that yes, there is a desktop mode that exists in here, but we know absolutely nothing about it beyond that. Are you aware of anything more around that, Cameron, as far as like what, or do you have any guesses as far as what that might materialize with Android Q?
I don't really know, and I'm kind of confused why it exists. I guess it's just more of the overlap. I don't know why it exists because of Chrome OS. That's why I think that it's weird to put a desktop mode in Android, but I guess it's just more of the overlap between Chrome OS and Android. Right. I don't know why I would ever want to use a desktop mode in Android, though.
Have you ever used Samsung's DeX setup?
I have not.
Desktop mode?
Or
desktop, no, I haven't. I actually, when I ordered my S9, I ordered the DeX dock with it, but they sent me a case for the wrong phone, and they never ended up sending me the DeX.
No way.
It was a mess. Yeah, it was, and we just got tired of messing with it, so I didn't.
Well, it feels like remember those not netbooks, but the little net boxes that came out afterwards, and they were like they just felt like these very light versions of a full operating system. Like that's exactly what it feels like. And what I would imagine a desktop mode, I mean, I don't know, I guess if you have Chrome OS, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, that would be actually really cool if suddenly your Android phone could transform into a Chrome OS instance. But I don't think that's what this is. Yeah. Like, it really seems like this is emulating more.
I don't know. There apparently a Chromecast can transform into a consoles.
A game system. That's right. Tease for the future. Stick around. We'll talk about that too. But that would be really great if it could suddenly transform into a Chrome OS device. My guess is that this is just like a desktop formatted version of Android, similar to what you are seeing in something like DeX, because Samsung is already doing it. So of course Google wants to show that it can do it. But there is a little bit of a strange kind of conundrum there between Google's actual desktop environment, which is Chrome OS, and making Android look better in a desktop mode. Like, I feel like that's a half step go full Chrome OS. That would be really useful. But
Jason,
what?
Did you happen to see I was thinking of the next thing, which could be, can we take a look at that feedback program?
Oh, I didn't even look at that. So let's see here. Android.
I want to see what it looks like. What's enticing?
Okay, well, I'll show you the icon.
Oh, there's an icon.
So you can drool over the icon. There it is.
Ooh.
It's a messaging bubble with an exclamation point in it. And when launched, that's what you get. Android beta feedback.
Material design. Wow.
Is there a dark mode?
Yeah.
Oh, is there a dark mode? Let's go to settings. No.
Oh, come on, dog food it. Come on, guys.
What about dark mode? All the things, huh? But apparently, I can report an issue, and it'll allow
there
me
is
to
no
add
dark
an attachment. Yes, there is no dark mode in this app. That's my issue. Okay. So it kind of walks you through how do you trigger this error that occurred or whatever, and I wonder if it surfaces this when something crashes or something like that. It'd be like, oh, that's a great time to launch this app.
Like on an Apple computer.
Yeah, right. Pull up the thing so it makes it much easier for you to report it. Who knows? So there you go. There's an app that if you're getting the beta, you're going to have on your phone that you can possibly use. Cameron, what stood out for you? Or is there anything? I mean, there's plenty of things here. We'll talk about more, but what do you want to make sure we talk about?
The new share menu.
Oh, right.
Yeah, good one.
That has needed to be revamped for so long. It has been so bad and so slow. And I'm so glad that they're finally addressing that. And it's going to be, it's fast. And it's actually useful.
Yeah, not only the share menu, but the whole share API, right? I mean, that's a whole from the ground up. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's always been slow, right? So I'm going to share from Twitter, share via... Boop. Okay.
And
so that's not too bad.
Okay.
And then if I do it again, I bet it comes up faster. Yeah. But in Pi, like you could never quite get used to what happened with share. You'd hit it, these options would come up, and sometimes you'd be like, yeah, that's the thing I want to share to, and you'd hit it and it wouldn't register because it was populating all of your share points up here, and then it would pull that up and things would like resize and everything. And sure, it all happened in the span of like 3 seconds, but that was 3 long seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially like when you see the thing and you're tapping it and it's just not working because it's still working on the information up here. I'm not getting any of that like dynamic information here though.
I was gonna say, what about the sharing shortcuts to people? Like, where is that? Is that in a different app? Go into Google Maps or something, or go into a Google app instead of.
Let's see here.
Yeah, because the screenshot they had was something different, like find a location.
Okay. Right. GC Micro Corporation. Share. Cool. There we go. Okay. Well, there's a bunch of information that you probably.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, that's what we have the edit for.
So I mean, the idea, going from their blog post, it's it says when a user wants to share content like a photo with someone in another app, the process should be fast, right? And it's going specifically to target your connection, maybe in photos or something like that to show that to their exact example. But But yeah.
Okay. Well, I think over time we'll see if there's actual speed improvements. I mean, right there, it seems like things have improved more. What I wish that Share would do, and it never does, like I would say 90% of my sharing goes to Pocket. I'm always sharing to Pocket because that's where I collect my links. And it's never been good at going, wow, 90% of the time you share to Pocket. Maybe that should always be the very first dang thing that ever appears there, period. That's what I want. But it never does.
Same thing with me. I mean, 90% of mine is copy to clipboard. Because I'm seeing something that I want to post into WhatsApp, or I want to share to Slack or something like that. But I hate if I use the app integrated version, I get all I don't want to share. Like when I share a tweet, I just want to share a link to the tweet. I don't want to share the
look what I read on Twitter link.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that. So I just do copy to clipboard and then I delete all that crap and just do the link. So
oh,
look at that.
Yeah, copy to clipboard did in the previous versions exist in this whole share menu, but that would just kind of move around all the time. Yeah. Now you've got it here, and I don't know if it's supposed to be in both places or maybe eventually they get rid of it in the big menu, but it's always up there, so you can tap that and boom, it's copied. So it will always be at the top, which is probably where it deserves to be, where it needs to be. So yeah, the sharing context stuff, that's a biggie. Let me think here. Lots of different changes. They made changes to the always on display.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping
Are there options for that available?
There are. You can see, ooh, the battery moved up there, up to the top.
We should probably apologize to some of the audio listeners, by the way. This is a pretty visual episode.
Right. Watch the video if you're like, what are they talking about up there and down there? Because, yeah, it's hard to explain some of these changes. We'll do our best.
Yeah,
on the ambient display, if you're listening to something on Spotify or YouTube Music, because Google Play Music is going away, it'll show that information here. In the middle, underneath like the clock. Down at the bottom, you'll see kind of like your calendar events and like 17 minutes until. And I feel like part of me feels like that was there before, but
that was on the home screen.
Okay, but it wasn't in the lock screen.
Yeah.
And now it's in the lock screen. That's super useful. I like that a lot.
Well, it's useful for you because you have meetings.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Or I have places that I need to go in 20 minutes, and it's really useful for me to look at my lock screen and go, "Holy crap! I needed to leave 3 minutes ago." You know?
Yeah, that's true. So. I'm just trying to think about. I just think about how disruptive those things are, and I think for me that's why I have a little trepidation because I'm like.
They can be disruptive, but for me, like I put so much stuff in the calendar, like. I want to be disrupted around that because if I put it in the calendar, that's like my signal to myself that I've made it a priority to get there on time.
Right.
So disrupt me. Make sure I get there because I'm so bad at arriving on time. That's my problem. That's not Android Q's problem. But thank you for trying to fix me, Android Q. Ron?
Yes. I gotta admit I'm very curious about the art performance improvements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if they're calling out the work, and so for those who don't know, the art runtime is the runtime kernel or whatever, you know, the core aspect of the operating system that basically gets apps starting, and they're saying, you know, it's going to help them start faster and consume less memory. And I feel like they mention art almost every other, you know, kind of OS version.
Yeah.
And so if it's worth enough of a mention here to call it out in this announcement, that those speed impacts got to be pretty good, or it's got to at least, you know, directly impact our use of the apps. Because as you said, Jason, earlier with the sharing thing, we want stuff faster. We want stuff more, you know, we don't want to wait for it. And art is the way that can happen. So hopefully they are making it more efficient with art.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that I like in the blog post they talk about the garbage collection, which is a thing in if you're in development, the idea there's a lot of excess data or whatever that's out there, and it's got to process it and spit it out. And I love that they say it's, you know, the garbage collection overall more efficient in terms of time and CPU, reducing jank.
Yeah, reduce that jank. Jank is a word.
It is.
Let's see here. Flow. Any others jump out at you?
I like this on the spot.
I know there's a lot of little things. I know that there was a lot of commotion over the bell appearing to the latest notification to kind of let you know what recently came through the notification shade. So you're not just looking through notifications trying to find the latest one, because that's not very time efficient. I knew that. Oh, did we go over roles?
No. So roles, if you remember, Michal from XDA had written about these weeks ago. And when he was on, he was talking about this. This was the thing that he was considering writing a blog post on. And basically the idea around this is that there are certain categories of apps that you would assign to be a default app for a particular thing, be it browser, be it dialer, that sort of thing. And so the roles, from what I understand, would be a set or a group of permissions specific to that default app category, that if you choose this app to be your default dialer and you have these two other dialer apps installed on your phone, the default dialer that you select is like elevated permissions. It has access to those permissions, whereas the other ones don't. if I'm understanding it correctly. So it's a way of saying if you as a user trust this particular app with the fill this role, then you trust it to do these things. The other apps, you don't trust them, therefore they don't get that access. Does that make sense?
It's a very exclusive club for apps, basically.
But determined by the user. And that actually makes a lot of sense to me, right? Like as a user, you're making that decision, and then everything isn't running in the background also collecting this information or whatever. I could be misunderstanding it, but that's kind of my interpretation of what I read about that. So
is there a user facing sort of way to get to the setting in Android, in the Android Q beta?
Let me see. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it. Default, I feel like it would be the setting. Default apps. So default apps. So if you show this, I believe this is basically where you would choose your default apps for all sorts of things, right? Roles, Chrome, and Messages.
Oh, there we go.
And
so
again,
Roles is at the very bottom of the default app settings screen, and so you would tap on that. It would take you to another list you get to choose your music app, and it gives you the choices based on what you have installed. It looks like
Home App, Pixel Launcher.
So it's literally just a much more explicit way to set your default apps. I feel.
Yeah, I'm curious to find out more information though about like what that role actually affords an app that you select versus the other ones, and that's where I might be guessing a little bit based on what I've read, but that's my understanding, because a large part of Q seems to be about your privacy and security, you know, securing your phone down so that it isn't doing things when you don't want it to, allowing you to select location sharing on a per use basis instead of letting that app just constantly have access in the background, or you know, a number of other things. What is it? No more launching an activity from the background. Specifically, so you're using an app and then suddenly a background app suddenly comes to the foreground, launched itself because it was running in the background. No more of that. Limits on the app's access to the MAC and IMEI addresses, also randomizing the MAC address when you connect to a new Wi-Fi network. They're doing all these things that before just kind of stayed static, or maybe, you know, the permissions for a number of apps were just kind of allowed to be picked through, you know, willy-nilly by whatever apps were installed. Now they're saying, no, these groups of apps you've given priority to, they have access. These other ones, less so. That's my guess.
I mean, all of this, like reading through the blog post and reading through the analysis and the exhaustive links that Cam put together.
Bless you, Cam.
Props. It just, to me, it just shows again, like this honestly feels like another maturation of the operating system, like, you know, looking at the, you know, all the stuff around privacy, all the stuff around data, looking at the settings panels and things like that. It's getting to be really slick and like becoming a nice operating system. At least that's how it seems, as someone who hasn't actually used it yet. But.
Now I will ask you, Cameron, your opinion on this. There are some people who continue to say that, man, with some of the changes that are happening in Android Q, it's making Android less Android. And actually, now that I say it out loud, I feel like this is an argument that I feel like we've heard the last like 3 or 4 years. It's like, oh no, Android's getting less Android. You know, it's getting more locked down. There's these pathways that are being set for the user instead of the user choosing their pathway. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you like these changes? Do you think it's necessary? What do you think?
I do like these changes. And it's funny because as we were talking about this, all I'm thinking is they're taking the best features from iOS and bringing them to Android, like the granular permissions, or only allowing an app to access location when it's in the foreground. That's one of my favorite features in iOS. And I love that kind of stuff is coming to Android. So yeah, I see what people are saying, but I also don't necessarily agree that it's a bad thing. I definitely don't think it's a bad thing. I like this new direction. I don't even know if it's a new direction, but I think it's something that Google's been slowly inching towards. But this is a big release for privacy and security, and I think now that's more important than ever. So yeah, I'm a big fan of these changes.